All right, week 3 pretty much in the books. Thanks for joining us for another episode of First and Pod. Andrew Fillipponi with 3-time All-Pro Patrick Peterson. Lots to talk about. Let's get people on the train here. Get in to First and Pod. Sign up today, subscribe, rate, review, and become loyal listeners. We do every game every week, and we start with Sunday Night Football on every Sunday night episode, Pat, and that means we get to talk about the luckiest team in football, the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, they do it. 22-17. The refs missed a pass interference call on Kyle Pitts, but that wasn't the only escape hatch they had in this game because the Falcons had 2 cracks at it, turned it over on downs both times, and they do not look like this high-powered offensive team. They are more of a defensive team right now. I thought the MVP of this game was actually Nick Bolton, their linebacker, who made the stop on the 4th down run. I don't understand why it's an outside run on 4th and inches. I really don't there, Pat. That's a puzzling one by the play caller there in Atlanta. But my big takeaway here is that Kansas City's offense still stuck in the mud here, not anywhere close to a juggernaut unit, and they keep getting away with it. They're 3-0, only 2 3-0 teams in the AFC, the Steelers and Chiefs.
Yeah. This is Kansas City is just finding a way to win the Kansas City way. It's not the Kansas City way that we've been accustomed of seeing early on in the Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid era, beating teams by 10 plus points week in and week out. It's just not that same team over that we saw over the years that we've been seeing from last year leading up into this year on the offensive side of the ball. And the defense has been playing lights out, and the defense has been finding ways to bail them out of games. But if you look at it, Kansas City Chiefs have been winning this way for quite a long time. And it can be ugly, it can be pretty, it can be a nail biter. They just find a way to win ball games, and that's what good football teams do. Championship football teams do. No matter what type of win is called for, they got the answer, and they have pretty much any style that you need to pull off W's in this football league.
Even if the Pitts penalty gets called and they have 1st and goal there, and let's say the Falcons score a touchdown, I still think Kansas City would have found a way to engineer a drive to win it. So anyone that's going to cry tomorrow morning about the refs, I'm going to disagree with them, because I did think there was some makeup calls on that last drive to help get Atlanta into a position where they could have scored a touchdown to win the game. I do think this can be true, Pat. Tell me if you agree or disagree with this. I think the Chiefs missed Tyreek Hill, even though they've won the last 2 Super Bowls. I think that's where the explosiveness has gone. Rashee Rice had a big game, was targeted 14 times, but everyone freaked out after the first game of the year and said, oh my God, the NFL, the Bills let the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy. No one's going to be able to stop them now. Well, Xavier Worthy's done nothing since and basically stopped running on a play that led to a Mahomes incompletion and a 3-and-out right before Atlanta got the ball back. They missed that guy. They led the league in drops last year. So there still is, I think, a big void in the Chiefs offense, but their defense is so great. Their head coach is a Hall of Famer, and they've got the best quarterback in the NFL that they've been able to overcome it. But it does make them more vulnerable, Pat. They're not a team that is just going to roll out of bed and score 30 points anymore.
Yeah, I think the Tyreek Hill departure definitely has something to do with that, because, as you said, and as I said early on, over the years, we've been accustomed of watching the Kansas City Chiefs go out there, roll out of their bed, and put up 30 points before the 4th quarter, and that was all when Tyreek Hill was there. So it may have some truth in that statement that they may be missing that Tyreek Hill, that big time explosive receiver. Although he's a smaller statue type of receiver, but he was just so perfect for that Kansas City offense and Andy Reid with his creativity how he was able to stretch the field, do end arounds, and things like that. And Tyreek was one of those. He is a once in a lifetime type receiver because, like I said, he has one of those smaller statues, but he's so durable that he could do anything that a bigger receiver will want to do. So he's a once in a lifetime type athlete, and he's definitely one of those missing pieces off of that Kansas City offense to help them be more explosive than they have been.
2 more rapid fire questions off of this game. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about Travis Kelce? 4 catches, 30 yards. I'm at a 4 right now on a scale of 1 to 10, just like his catch total. I'm not at 0. I'm not at 1. I'm close to the middle. I'm going to go 4 on a scale of 1 to 10. You?
I'm going to go 4. It's still the first quarter of the season. Travis is in year 13, I believe. So the season just getting started. He understands and knows when it's time to turn it on. And so I'm not worried as much just yet because I understand how long the football season is, and I know how it can pay a toll on the body throughout the course of the season. So I'm thinking that he's going to turn it on just in time and right when they need him to make that run for their 3rd championship.
If I'm a Falcons fan, this is going to sound weird because a lot of people will probably down there. My dad lives in Atlanta and has a nice acting career down there and is probably thinking, they're thinking to themselves, we blew it. We had them beat multiple times. The refs screwed us. I actually feel good. The Saints lost today. The Buccaneers got blown out at home. They're 1-2. They've played the Steelers, Chiefs, and Eagles. Those 3 teams have combined for 1 loss. And I think the offense gets better as the season goes on. I'm buying Falcons stock. Pat, you played with Kirk. You want to agree or disagree with that one?
No, I agree. I'm buying the Atlanta Falcons stock for sure because the division, it is a competitive division between Tampa, Atlanta, and the Saints, but it's up for the taking. And I believe the Atlanta football team is built to make a run right now. It's just going to come down to guys being healthy. The defense continue to build on what they're building on throughout this first 3 weeks of the season. And like you said, these guys play some quality opponents, like some playoff teams throughout this first stretch of the season. So they're getting battle tested, so hopefully that's able to propel them throughout the rest of the season with confidence and build for those wars that they're going to have to be equipped for going down the stretch.
All right, let's get to the games throughout the day. We'll start with the one I watched in Pittsburgh. The Steelers get to 3-0. Justin Herbert gets knocked out with that high ankle sprain. The Chargers were held to -5 yards in the second half as the Steelers went on to win the game by 10. Tomlin is 3-0 for the 4th time in his career. Has he found his future starting quarterback in Justin Fields?
I said this a couple of weeks ago. If Justin Fields go out there and start this season 3-0, I believe the keys is going to be the keys to the football team is going to be his. And today, I believe solidified that. I believe they opened up the playbook a little bit more for him. They had a little bit more spice to the play call, a little bit more free reign in the passing game, not just those intermediate check downs. You actually saw him going through progressions, throwing the ball down the sideline, hitting Austin for the big, pretty much to seal the game. It was like a dagger, high-low concept. And the defense is playing lights out, allowing the fewest points in the NFL right now. That is a recipe for success. And he's young, so he's playing winning football on the offensive side of the ball. He's playing with a ton of confidence. And you can just tell that the guys are riding with the young fella right now. And it's just hard to take the ball out of a hot hand. So I believe this is Justin Fields' football team right now. He is going to have to go out there and goof it up. He done everything that he should have done to give him the opportunity to keep the starting job. Now it's upon him to go out there and just continue playing the way that he's playing. Don't worry about any of the outside noise and see how far he can take this Pittsburgh Steelers team, because I believe this can be a very, very dangerous football team in the AFC. just the way the style of play that they're playing with. And we're starting to see that the NFL trend is starting to go back to that old school, bloody your nose up, 12-round boxing matches. And the Pittsburgh Steelers has always been built for that. And if that's the case, and if it's going to be that type of football season, watch out. They might be the team to beat.
Well, this caused me to break out the $100 bottle of wine after the game, Pat. I was so happy with Fields. He is. So let me start by answering the question. Has Tomlin found his franchise quarterback? I think, my opinion, I think he has. I am nervous that they still, meaning the Steelers, don't completely share my opinion because of the Russell Wilson element to all this. If their backup quarterback was Kyle Allen or somebody like that, I think they'd be more committed to Justin. You said goof it up. I still have that on the back of my mind. Like, what I don't want is, as a fan, I don't want Justin Fields, once Russell Wilson is cleared to play, I don't want him rushing over. I don't want him looking over his shoulder. I don't want a situation where he feels like, man, if I'm one bad interception or I'm one crappy game away from losing my job. And I don't think Mike will name him his starter. I think he's going to continue to just kind of leave it open-ended and hide behind the calf injury with Wilson until Russ is completely healthy. And even then, I still think it's going to be hey, if you goof up a game or screw up a game, we're going to take you out. And I don't want that, Pat. I want him to have the confidence of knowing that you're 3-0. If you have one bad game in 4, that's okay. You're a 25-year-old quarterback that's coming from a place where you won 10 games and 38 starts and committed 41 turnovers in 40 games. He's played better than a game manager. The stats don't show that. He made a ton of plays in the pocket today. He made big throws downfield. They had really no threat of a rushing game until later in the game, which helped them ice the game. But for the first half, he really didn't. They had, I think, 6 yards on 5 runs from Warren and Harris in the first half of the game. So I'm buying in. I believe it, but I just wish that they came out and said, you're our starting quarterback. And it wasn't a situation where 1 or 2 bad games caused them to go to the other guy, Pat. And I'm nervous they're going to do that.
I mean, I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to name a starting quarterback because I think that Coach Tomlin gets joy out of, touring around with the media. So I don't think he's going to come out and name. And
but would he let Justin know that behind closed doors? I mean, screw us on the outside. But would he let him know that?
I believe so. To where, because Coach understands how it is with young guys, especially. He don't want to. If he's playing with a certain confidence right now, you don't want to do anything to diminish that or to tear that down or have him not at his best. So I believe Coach would definitely communicate with Justin if his decision on if Justin is the starter throughout the season.
Well, they didn't dumb down the offense today. They gave him more, and he made the most of it.
And that's why I believe he is the starter, because if they would have came out knowing how good the Los Angeles Chargers defense was, there was rated a number 2 defense coming into this game.
And they allowed the fewest points.
So we got a guy coming in here. We know as a defense, as an offense, we don't want to mess it up. We don't want to give their offense any short fields. The Pittsburgh Steelers did not play like that today. The playbook was wide open. They had razzle-dazzle. They was taking their chances. They was giving the Los Angeles Chargers everything they wanted from their offensive side, on the offensive side of the ball today, and on the defensive side of the ball, obviously. But they really expanded the playbook today. It was beautiful to see. And that's what gave me the confidence of saying, oh, now they really giving the young fellas the keys now, seeing how he's going to be able to manage a game against a real top-tier defense. And I thought he aced the test today. So let's move on to the the Dallas Cowboys and the Baltimore Ravens. The Dallas Cowboys open up with 2 home losses. Who is it to blame?
So the defense here is going to look bad because the score was 28-6 to start the third quarter. And if not for a Justin Tucker chip shot, by the way, he's got the yips now. They would have been down 31-6. So, I feel like watching the game, Brady was really keying in on the fact that the Cowboys defense was in tatters. But I think for me, I put it on Mike McCarthy. And here's why. I understand your offensive line is young and your running backs are old and you're watching Derrick Henry, who you could have had and made a push for, run the ball right up your rear end the entire game, which had to drive Cowboys fans nuts. And they made this amazing comeback late to make it a 3-point game. You had 6 points with 12 minutes to go in this game. You gave Dak Prescott all that money. You gave CeeDee Lamb that money. You have continuity in the play caller with Mike McCarthy coming back. Those 3 guys alone at home, we talked about it the last 2 weeks. Baltimore's defense is not what it was last year. It's completely unacceptable that the only way they started scoring in this game was once Baltimore went to a prevent defense. I'm sorry, those are hollow stats to me. Those are empty calorie stats, Pat. I call them Phillip Rivers games. That's a Phillip Rivers game right there. I watched him for years with the Chargers. He'd come in, they'd be down 3 touchdowns with 10 minutes left. He'd throw for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. It looked like he had a great game. No, you didn't. Okay, where was it for the first 45 minutes of the game? So people are going to look at Jerry Jones here and blame him. People are going to look at the defense. People are going to look at the moves they didn't make in the offseason. But this offensive production is completely unacceptable for the first 3 games of the season. There's no reason why Dak with Mike McCarthy should look like this at this point. I'm sorry, I know it's early, Pat, but still, they don't have the excuses of other teams of, well, we didn't have these guys, or this is a new coach or new quarterback. They've been together for years.
Yeah, they look soft. So I don't know who to blame for the physicality. They just look soft on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Can't run the football. Clearly couldn't protect Dak today, and dead last attempting to stop the run on defense. So that's just not a good look or a product or a result that you would want for winning football. So in my opinion, they're just soft physically, and there's nothing that you can tell me that they're not displaying that on a football field through these first 3 weeks of the season.
Texans and Vikings. I'd say Minnesota scored the statement win of the day, just blowing out the Texans. Who should get the most love for today's blowout win?
Minnesota for sure.
But who on Minnesota?
Or who on the team? I'll go with Sam. Had a great game, but I'm going to give this to B-Flow. Just the outstanding job Coach Brian Flores have been doing with that Minnesota defense, leading back to last year, coming into this season. These guys are playing like some wild maniacs, man. They playing with their hair on fire. Coach Flores giving the offenses a ton of different looks that they cannot seem to grasp right now. We know that he's a pressure guy, and he's bringing pressure from all different angles. The young fellas are playing amazing right now. So I go with B-Flow with the credit, because you got to think about it. CJ Stroud, all of the weapons that they have on that side of the ball, and the defense that they have that they were able to assemble over there in Texas. So and what the defense was able to do and have that play so smothering today, or versus the Texans offense. I think B-Flow gets all of the credit from
well,
this.
You stole my answer. I thought you were going to say Darnold. Brian Flores, to me, if the guy's not a head coach next year, something's wrong.
Yeah.
We know about his lawsuit and the way he got jobbed in Miami. The guy is a mad scientist. He blitzes a ton. He's so exotic. He gives Brock Purdy all kinds of fits 2 years in a row. Stroud is one of the best quarterbacks in the league against the blitz. He was terrible today. Their only touchdown was a garbage time touchdown when Davis Mills was in the game. 2 interceptions for Stroud, sacked 5 times. They only had 200 yards of offense. The guy's awesome. You know, when you were still playing there, Pat, and we were doing this podcast 2 years ago, you know, we talk about that team a lot that you were on that won all those games. And I said all the time, I'm like, I think they've got really good players on defense. I think the parts might be better than the sum. And I honestly feel like if you had Flores as a defensive coordinator, you guys would have won playoff games. I really believe that.
Yeah, I agree. And with Coach Ed Donatel, we was just a defense really been our philosophy was truly about bend, don't break. You know, so
this guy's the opposite.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Variants of defense, no risk it, no biscuit is what he's doing.
Exactly. He's not giving the quarterback an opportunity to sit back there and pick us apart. He's bringing all the fire to the quarterback. So everybody have their different philosophies, and either way works as it's been shown throughout the history of the league. But for sure during that year, I believe if we was a little bit more physical and a little bit more, not physical, aggressive, we could have made a run for sure. So let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles and the New Orleans Saints. Huge win for Philly. Do you think Philly is a Super Bowl contender still?
You know, I was critical of them before this game and said that their defense needed to step up with all those first-round picks. And guess what? They did exactly that. I mean, Carr's numbers. I mean, they had 91 points coming in New Orleans. They looked like they were this Kubiak system with the guys like Carr and Olave and Kamara. It looked like it was a match made in heaven, and this team was going to, be on the coming out of nowhere to have a special season, and maybe they still will. But they got absolutely derailed today. You could tell C.J. Gardner-Johnson went back to New Orleans and took it super personally, and he set a real physical tone to that game. So I want to give him a shout out for the way he played. Here's why I think they're a contender. And if you look at their season to start here, look at the 3 games they played. Green Bay, Atlanta, and New Orleans. They're 2-1. If Barkley doesn't drop the ball, an easy pitch and catch, they beat Atlanta, they're 3-0. And we're talking about them at 3-0 as maybe the best team in the NFC. They'd be the best team record-wise. I think they'd be the best team passing the eye test too. So this coach there gets killed. The Philly media is just so mean. I mean, it's vile how they're just complete mutants there. But I think Philadelphia, they've look at the injuries today too, Pat. They didn't have A.J. Brown. They didn't have Devontae Smith, who got hurt in the game. So to be 2-1 with the caliber of competition they played, I think that despite their growing pains there and some of the inner turmoil, Philadelphia is just a really friggin' good team, and they found a way to get it done today despite not scoring a lot of points.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Philly is a Super Bowl contender, and they've always been a Super Bowl contender. It's just going to come down to how they finish the season. And it was good to see that their defense got back on track today with the physicality. Zach Bond, oh my God, he played like one of the best linebackers in the National Football today. He also went back home, had a homecoming playing against his former team in the New Orleans Saints, and just the confidence that the defensive line played with today. You can just tell they played with a different swagger as a unit today. And that's what they're going to need for them to be successful as a defense moving forward, because when they did make that Super Bowl run, they had great guys on the back end making plays, but it started with the guys up front. And if these guys want to continue to win ball games and make a push in the NFC, the defensive line unit is going to have to be special week in and week out.
They got the pedigree for it. They just got to back it up and play to their talent level week in and week out, and they did for the first time today.
Yep.
All right, Dolphins and Seahawks. This game was just ugly. Miami's offense is just incompetent now without Tua. And then to make matters worse, Pat, Skylar Thompson, their backup, gets hurt, chest injury, so they're down to their third-string guy. Is there a quarterback out there who can save their season? So I'm going to give you 2 names. You tell me if either one of these guys could get Miami back on track. Ryan Tannehill, who's a free agent, who played there, obviously, and was drafted there. And then Russell Wilson, who could ask for a trade out of Pittsburgh and try to get himself to Miami in the last year of his contract.
Which one makes more sense? I like
Maybe neither do. I don't
yeah,
know. What do you
man.
think?
I like the Tannehill selection over Russell. I think Tannehill fit that offense a little bit better because the style of play, the style of passes that is required for that offense. You need like that taller statue type of quarterback. Although Tua is not that, that's just what Mike had to work with. Coach Mike had to work with coming into there. But I feel like Ryan Tannehill will fit better in that offense. Just watching Miami offense, schematically, I feel like his arm talent would suit their offense versus Russell Wilson's arm talent.
Well, I thought to your point about big guys, I mean that they need like a Joe Flacco off the couch
Yeah.
right now to save themselves because I don't think Tua, you don't know when he's going to be back because concussions are so fickle and the backups there are just not NFL quality. And when you have the weapons they do, you can't afford to just waste years and not go for it. So if Tannehill's not on a plane there for a tryout tomorrow, then they're not doing it right, in my opinion.
Yeah, so yeah, they definitely need to address that quarterback room. It's going to be interesting to see if it's going to be a trade or go and get someone out of the free agent out of the free agent market. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. I'm sure they're going to make a move by Wednesday for sure. So the Browns Giants, the Browns are 0-2 at home. The fans are booing and chanting for Jameson. But do you think it's fully Deshaun Watson's fault?
You know what? I'm not a Deshaun Watson fan whatsoever. I'm not. I'm obviously the off-field stuff contributes to my opinion on him, but I'm not actually in this instance going to put it all on him. Now, when you're making that amount of money, you're supposed to be able to overcome some of the things around you that aren't up to par. But I think because Watson is such a lightning rod and polarizing figure that it allows for other culprits here to kind of fly under the radar and not take any accountability or culpability, Pat, for their offensive struggles. This offensive line stinks, and they've invested huge money in it and big draft picks. And I know there's injuries. They lost their offensive line coach Callahan to Tennessee because that's where his son coaches now. He's considered one of the best in the NFL. They missed that guy big time. Watson got sacked 8 times today. I watched most of that game. It was not just hanging onto the ball too long thing. He didn't have time. Their running back, Ford, can't get any traction going. He only ran the ball 10 times today in a close game because their offensive line cannot block. So that, to me, falls back on some of the coaching there and also some of the roster construction. Like, I understand that the Watson cap hit makes it hard to build a complete team around him. But my goodness, man, they're so used to having one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. You played against them the last couple of years. That's been their calling card for a while now, and it's just the opposite. And Deshaun Watson's confidence is eroded so much that if he doesn't think the guys in front of him are going to keep him upright, it makes that problem even worse. It exacerbates it. So I think you got to look at the coaches and the offensive line right now on top of Watson, Pat. I don't think there's a lot of quarterbacks that could play behind that offensive line, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't think no quarterback can play behind that offensive line because every time Deshaun dropped back, he has no chance to have an opportunity to step into a throw. I mean, every single time it just seemed like someone was in Deshaun Watson's lap. And it just seemed that they just don't seem like they're on the same page, especially in the fourth quarter. A lot of miscommunication, miss puller blockers. Like that's like preseason type stuff. Like that's not something you want to see throughout from your first unit throughout the first week of the first quarter of the season. So, and like you said, Pony, the offensive line unit for the Cleveland Browns has always been the staple of that football team. And to this point right now, to this case, they're just not it right now.
They do something weird too, and he did this when he had Brissett with Watson, and Stefanski did it again today. When it's third and short,
they put James.
Why does he do that? I would hate that as a quarterback, man. I'm a
Yeah,
franchise quarterback. You're taking me off the field in those situations?
but hey, that might be a writing on the wall.
I if I were making that kind of money and had an axe to grind and something to prove, I'd be screaming at my coaches when I came off the field. That is so weird to me.
Yeah.
49ers and Rams. This game was incredible in the fourth quarter, Pat.
Mm-hmm.
49ers blow a 2-touchdown lead. They got a historic game from Juwan Jennings. He had 3 touchdowns, over 150 yards. Jerry Rice is the only other wide receiver in 49ers history to do that. Not Terrell Owens, not Deebo Samuel, no one else. Juwan Jennings. My question is, can you just pin their 1 and 2 start on injuries? Can you just write this off as, well, look at the guys that are out, no McCaffrey, no Deebo, no Kittle. That's why the 49ers are 1 and 2, yes or no?
No, I don't think you could just pin it all on injuries, because that's a well-coached football team, and they find ways to always win ball games. And they had a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter. And last time I checked, the Los Angeles Rams, they're banged up too.
Yep.
So you just can't. Everyone in the NFL have the same problems. It's just all about how you deal with them, how you adjust to those problems. So no, I'm not going to pin that down. Just say solely because they're injured. Yes, that pays to it, but I won't just solely put everything on the injuries on why they're not the start of the 1 and 2 start.
Their defense has everybody healthy. How is this defense with the Nick Bosa's and Fred Warner's of the world? How are they letting the Rams make these plays without Nakua, without Kupp, with an offensive line that's so banged up? It's their 3rd starting offensive line in 3 weeks. How are you letting that happen? You go up 2 touchdowns, it's 14-0, 5 minutes in. You lose this game. I mean, you've got a ton of 49ers fans there, so it was a home field environment for them. This Kyle Shanahan, I think he's an offensive genius. I am confused by what's going on there defensively. And he's lost 2 guys to head coaching gigs, D'Amico Ryans and Saleh. But he ran off Wilkes last year, Pat. They go to the Super Bowl. He said our philosophies didn't jive. He embarrassed him several times in press conferences. I thought that was Bush League. So he's got his guy back in there who he wants as the defensive coordinator. And then this happens today, and Darnold made big plays against him last week. So when you're an offensive head coach, you usually just let your defensive coordinator maybe kind of leave him to his own devices and do his thing. But I'm just going to circle this and underline this. Like, this is now for me a carryover from last year where they've had defensive questions that I trace back to the coach. Do you know how rare it is to fire a defensive coordinator after you go to the Super Bowl, Pat?
I know. Very rare.
So I just that leaves me scratching my head, and their defense is better than what they showed again today.
Yeah. I don't know if it's coming down to I won't say coaching. I think I put it on decision making. That's what it seemed like it's coming down to for the 49ers, just coming down on making that right call, or putting your guys in the perfect position. As easy as that may sound, I believe that's what it's coming down to, because we all know they have the scheme, they have the athletes, they have the coaching staff. Now I believe it's just the decisions making down the stretch is something that they're going to have to get better with. All right, let's move on to the Bears Colts. Another shaky game for Caleb Williams. Is this more on him or the situation that he's put in?
Yeah, so we've been critical of him on this podcast. I don't think you or I view him as the next great quarterback, like he's Patrick Mahomes reincarnate. I don't feel that way. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, Pat, but I'm pretty sure from the conversations we've had, you feel similarly.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say this about what's going on there. After watching some of the play calls, they ran one of the dumbest plays on 4th and goal at the 1 yard line today. They ran like an option play that you'd see like Nebraska run from the 1980s. It was
I did see that with the 3 guys in the backfield.
Yes, I'm like, what are we doing here? Okay, So
See that.
I just want to get that out there because maybe people missed that play. It was it was so mind-bogglingly dumb.
Yeah.
What I don't understand about this whole Caleb Williams draft decision that they made, and then what they did organizationally. When you draft him, why bring back a defensive head coach who, frankly, has not really had results there? They
Mm-hmm.
made that mistake when they drafted Trubisky, keeping John Fox there. They made that mistake when they drafted Justin Fields and they kept Matt Nagy there, only to fire both of those guys after 1 year. If you're the Bears, they should have gone out and hired Jim Harbaugh, or they should have hired one of these offensive head coaches and paired them with Caleb Williams and let those guys grow together, Pat.
Yeah.
I mean, if they go like 6-11 and their offense looks like it has for the first 3 weeks, the head coach is going to get fired, and then they're going to start over with new offensive coaches next year.
Yeah.
And that's not good for a quarterback's development.
No, it's not. No, it's not at all. And I always hate to see those situations, especially for young quarterbacks, first rounders, when they get put in these type of situations, because you have so much is thrown on them out of the gate. I always feel like quarterbacks should be eased into the process, because quarterback is the real big boy leagues. Like, everything falls on you, to the media, to your teammates, to the head coaches. Like, everything falls upon you. So how you expect a young guy to handle all of that pressure when he really never had that responsibility? So I'm always a fan of, man, give the young fella at least 3 weeks, the first quarter of the season, because I know I keep saying I'm breaking the season down in quarters, but that's how we break the football season down.
Right.
The first, we break it down in quarters. So let that veteran, not get banged up or get beat up in the pocket, but let him go out there and show the young pup the ropes on how to prepare week in and week out, how to get your body prepared, how to be the first.
Pat, they don't have one on the roster. Their backup quarterback's an undrafted guy from last year. I don't understand that.
I still would have let him start the first couple of weeks.
I agree, but I'm saying, like, they should have had a guy on the team who was more of a veteran quarterback to help him learn the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think it's when guys start off like that, I won't necessarily say it's going to be tough, but it's going to be a long road for them, because, like you stated, I don't like calling for coaches' jobs, but if he wins 5 games, 6 games, there's going to be a new coach in Chicago for sure.
And then he's going to have to start over.
Then you have to start all over again.
Packers and Titans. This was the Malik Willis bowl because Jordan Love was close to playing. Mm-hmm. They said, let's give him an extra week. Smart. Willis went out and played the game of his life against his old team, getting revenge. He had 4 30-yard passes today. He set his career high in passing yards before the second half kickoff even got underway. Put 73 rushing yards on top of that. Pat, here's a question for you. If Malik Willis is good, okay, let's say it's almost like Justin Fields, where he just needed a change of scenery and get out of Tennessee, and now he's got good coaching. Mm-hmm. If you're the Packers, what do you do with this guy? Because you've got Jordan Love locked up. Yeah. So, I mean, what would you trade him? Like, if a team offered you a 2nd-round pick this offseason, would you deal him? Like, it's a good problem, but it's interesting. Like, if this guy looks like a starting quarterback in the games he plays while he's filling in for Jordan Love, what do you think Malik Willis's NFL future looks like?
I believe it's very bright if he can continue playing at this level that he's playing at right now. Just like you said, he just needed a change of scenery, a little bit better coaching, or I won't say better coach, because if you're a coach in the NFL, obviously you're a pretty good coach. But he went to now he's going into a situation like you just talked about with the Caleb Williams and the Chicago situation. Now Malik is with an offensive-minded coach. Malik is with a guy who understands. Malik is with a coach who understands pretty much all attributes of the quarterback position. So now he's able to give him little nuggets. Now he's able to explore his game and help him become even better in things in this game that he never even thought about that he could become better in. So I think he's just in a perfect situation. I think he needs to take advantage of this, and his stock is just continuing to rise for next year because someone's going to need a quarterback.
Why do you think that around the NFL there's so much interest in mobile dual threat quarterbacks? Like, why do you think that so many coaches now almost require that out of their starting quarterbacks, and the Kirk Cousins and Tom Brady's and the guys like that who are just strict pocket quarterbacks, Pat, are going by the wayside? Why is that?
Man, dual threat quarterbacks keep you up at night because it's just an added element to the football game. It's like he's the 12th person on the football field because most of the time when quarterbacks drop back, you're not assuming or thinking that they have the ability to take off. So when you have those quarterbacks that have the opportunity to create extra time, it puts that much more stress on the defense because now he's creating time. Guys are not used to running behind a receiver for 6 seconds, 5 seconds. The defensive linemen are not used to chasing behind the quarterback sideline to sideline, up, stepping into the pocket, rolling out, and things like that. So it just add a different element and another stress level to the defense because now they're just not a passer, they're a runner as well. Panthers, Raiders. Did the Panthers offense justify the benching of Bryce Young?
So it did. And here's, I think, the dilemma that I see in this situation. It to me, Pat, it's the same exact thing that happened in Miami with Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick, in that Tua really struggled when he first became a starter. His stats weren't good. He won more games than Young. It wasn't as bad as Young, but it wasn't super pretty. And Miami knew that they had a high-end backup who could go run the offense and make the offense look better. And so you had that today, where a lot of the excuses that were made for for Bryce Young, bad offensive line, not enough weapons, all of those things. Well, when you score 36 and most of it is not kind of fluke stuff or garbage scores, they're legitimate drives engineered by the quarterback. It's not going to net. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that people wanted to, me included, say this was a problem that was not really all on Bryce Young. This was a organizational failure. And it still might be because of when they decided to play him so early on in his rookie year and with the pieces around him then. But clearly, the overall roster quality offensively is better than we thought after watching it the first 2 weeks. In the end, though, Pat, like, I would not be in a rush to go back to Young. Let him watch. Yeah. Let him see what happens here. Like, this doesn't have to be a thing where he sits there and mopes and thinks like everybody in the organization has quit on me and given up on me and I'm screwed here. This is Andy Dalton's job moving forward. Like, no, like, I think it should give him confidence. Like, hey, if I do the things that Andy is doing in the offense, I can actually have success here. Like, I would feel like if I were him that this is not a dead end situation now, that there actually is hope because somebody stepped in for me and actually got the job done.
And I agree. I think this definitely can give him hope. And now he can actually see what it looks like. See what it looks like on a day in, a day out basis. How to prepare, how to get some things implemented that I like to do. Because as a young quarterback, he probably don't even know how to go to the offensive coordinator. Be like, hey, I don't even know their offensive coordinator name. Be like, yo, coach, I really don't like that in the game plan. That really don't suit my style of play. All right, Bryce, let's sit down and see what you like to do. You know what I mean? It's things like that. And I believe if he have an opportunity to see that from Andy, who played in this league 14 years and had a lot of success in this league as well, I think that can really, really pay off for Bryce Young's future.
Because he's got to respect Dalton.
Mhm.
And the fact that Dalton is able to do this probably makes him think that, it's in there, like the offensive design or the offensive concepts or the offensive philosophy. It's not all bad.
Right.
Um, and that's to me, like, I would have more trust in my coaches after watching this today than I would have when they told me I was no longer the starter before this week started. Broncos and Bucks. Speaking of offensive kind of breakouts that came out of nowhere, Denver today. Sean Payton after the game said, Bo Nix is going to be something. He is now being very cocky about Bo Nix after one good game. Pat, do you still buy into Sean Payton as such a quarterback whisperer that when Sean Payton says this about a quarterback, you believe him about it?
Mm, no. I'm not buying it one bit because the only quarterback I can think of Sean Payton whispering to is Drew Brees, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I know he had quarterback quarterback coaching alliances with the Dallas Cowboys, but I don't know who the quarterbacks were during that time. So I don't know how he get the quarterback whispering title, but I will say this: he is a offensive guru, offensive play caller. I will say that for sure. He was probably one of the first guys that was able to really use like every blade of grass and really getting tight ends in the game, in the vertical game. In my opinion, with Jimmy Graham and Ben Watson. So I will give him that. But no, I'm not good. I'm not buying the Bo Nix is something special thing just yet. Just yet. Still early. And like we just talked about the young quarterbacks, man, I just don't see him with the pocket presence of a CJ Stroud, of a Patrick Mahomes or things like that. I just don't see that just yet to give me any hope that he's going to be special. He may be good, but I don't think he's going to be special.
So it's funny that you brought up Stroud because he started 0-2 last year and then took off from there.
Mhm.
And I would be lying to you after watching Knicks play against Seattle and Denver. I mean, Seattle and Pittsburgh. If I thought after those two games that this guy would have some great NFL future, but I will say that I thought he played the best game I've seen of any rookie quarterback so far this year, which is not a high bar, obviously.
Yep.
But he was not intimidated by facing a team that was 2-0 and had gone to Detroit and won the week before. He was very composed. And I think the thing about Denver is their defense is better than people think.
Oh yeah, defense
When
solid.
Russell Wilson went on that winning streak last year and they beat Kansas City and Buffalo, their
Mhm.
defense was holding teams under 17 points per game. They
Yeah.
had 7 sacks today. Vance Joseph is a good defensive coach.
Yeah, he
Not
is.
everybody knows that name, but he's probably a top 5 defensive coordinator. And so if he gets those guys to play up, then all of a sudden now the ask out of Bo Nix is not as high. So I actually thought with that game today, the biggest story was how Denver's defense shut down Baker Mayfield and that Bucs offense after the
Yeah.
way they played the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, Vance Joseph, I had the opportunity to play for Vance out of Arizona, and he has that same philosophy of that Brian Flores mindset that he's going to send pressure from any and everywhere. Going to be very, very aggressive, especially on third downs and also in the red zone. So, and that's probably why one of the reasons Coach Sean Payton brought him back, because of the success the defense did have last year, although the results of the team record wasn't showing that. But Vance Joseph is a damn good defensive coordinator and a former head coach. All right, last one for the day. Lions Cards. Detroit is 2-1, but the offense still looks a little off. Do you have any concerns?
I do, and here's why. Because Jared Goff, the last 2 years has been excellent. But let's not pretend like Jared Goff for his entire career, every year, he's been great. There's a reason why he got traded from the Rams to Detroit. It's because Sean McVay, who everyone respects and loves as an offensive coach, didn't think he could win a Super Bowl with the guy. Mm-hmm. And I think we've forgotten that over the last 2 years because, to Goff's credit, he's played very well. He, was a couple of throws away and drops away from going to the Super Bowl last year. Pat, he is out of nowhere. I can't really explain this. He's made very careless decisions with the football through 3 games. He's already thrown 4 interceptions. 2 years ago, he only threw 7. Last year, only threw 12. So I don't know what's going on there because it doesn't make sense with the offensive line they have where he's like under duress. It's not a situation like we talked about with Deshaun Watson where he's getting put on his wallet every play. So I'm just confused by that. Guys have off years. Guys are not always every year like Kirk Cousins, 30 touchdowns. You can basically write that down with him. Not everyone is consistent. And so he's not, he's a pocket passer who's now getting close to 30. So has he lost a little bit? I don't know, but it's just, I expected him especially to be much sharper because the offensive coordinator came back. The line was intact. And with the young players, they had Gibbs and Laporta going into year 2. I thought they'd get better. And I thought their offense I thought they'd be one of the best offenses in the league through 3 weeks, Pat, because there really were very few adjustments that needed to be made there.
Yeah. Yeah. I probably just say it's a product to the defenses catching up. How many 300-yard games we had today? Maybe 2, right?
Very, very few. Darnold might have gotten to 300, but there weren't many. You're right. In winning efforts, not many at all.
So, and you go back to last year, it's probably an average of 6 to 7 300-yard games on an average per week. So I think the defenses are catching up with these offenses, man, because even the interception that Jared threw to Dennis Gardeer, he didn't even see Dennis. He just came complete from the backside. He just got completely tricked. And he just robbed him off the backside because he thought Dennis was, coming off the edge. And it was a great defense design, a nice fire zone design for the Cardinals that I thought was going to help them win that ball game. But I just think the defenses now are catching up with these offenses, in my opinion.
Good job by Spencer, our producer. Andy Dalton and Jalen Hurts were the only winning quarterbacks today to throw for 300 yards.
So yeah, it's just. I think defenses are catching up with these offenses, man, and it might be going back to Mel Kiper's point that the safeties are playing a little bit too high, but the offenses, you got to do something about it.
All right, doubleheader Monday with the Commanders, Bengals, and Jaguars and Bills. We will touch on those games when we talk to you again on Thursday night after Giants and Cowboys. He's Patrick Peterson. I'm Andrew Fillipponi for Spencer Ray. Thanks for listening to First and Pod. Listen to subscribe to First and Pod on the Odyssey app, wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you on Thursday.